inaugural episode of Comic Book Virgins. I'm the dominatrix, Trasnil.
I don't know what that means.
Well, because I'm like the dominator, like you guys are the virgins, so I'm bringing you in, like,
Oh,
dominating you
okay.
guys. Yeah,
I am
yeah.
the Don't Hurt Me Travis Kirkland Panther.
I'm the safe word, Taylor Field.
Very nice. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a show that we don't really know yet, but we're probably going to be doing, I'd say, like every 2 to 3 months. We're going to tie it with big comic book releases and how this was inspired as we were watching WandaVision. And Kirkland said, "Oh, you know what? I would like to read some more stuff so I know, like, just more than just a little bit more than just the surface level stuff." And I went, "Well, I've always been wanting to read comics with these guys, and this show was born." So, before we get into that, we are going to be reviewing House of M / Avengers Disassembled, kind of that big saga of what led to House of M, and then some other stuff in between. But Taylor, before we get into this review, where can they find us on the interwebs?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you can find us with your internet connection. GeekVerse.ca is our home base, and you can find us at GeekVerseCast on Twitter, and then you can also find us at GeekVerse on Facebook. Make sure you tune into our Facebook because we have our MonsterVerse Godzilla poll that is popping off in celebration of Godzilla vs. Kong. Yeah. I never know if you want me to do like the whole shebang or whole spiel, but there you go.
All right. And then, ladies and gentlemen, by the time this is coming out, we've reviewed every single episode of WandaVision. Hopefully, that finale was great. Let's just,
Just
fingers
love
that
crossed.
happened.
The cameos, oh my god, when Ghost
Yeah.
Rider popped
Patrick
out,
Stewart and Patrick Stewart riding on the back of Ghost Rider.
it's so good.
That would be cool. Instead of the wheelchair, he's on the Ghost Rider's motorcycle. That'd be badass. But yeah, go check out every episode of that. Next week, it's crazy, but next week we'll be reviewing Falcon Winter Soldier, the first episode, the debut episode, and the 4-hour Snyder Cut. So we got lots of stuff popping off. Check out, there's probably retros going on. The Man of Steel retro's coming up. The Captain America from the 1990s is coming up. We got commentary tracks for BVS and Justice League, the OG one. Unfortunately, the OG one. Mortal Kombat 2 is coming up. We got just tons of stuff there. Early, exclusive, ad-free episodes with a whole bunch of other perks, and that supports us. That helps grow the show because you guys have been supporting all this new content, and that helps make new content. It helps pay for gear and stuff like that. Just because, just had some gear broke, we have to get new gear for that. So that's what you guys come in and help. So thank you very much. Just subscribe on the podcast on audio feeds and the video feeds. When we go live, you can join in the chat and have some fun with us. But yeah, March, we got a bunch of stuff like Taylor talked about the Zilla poll. We'll be reviewing Godzilla versus King Kong. There's going to be Godzilla Retro, just tons of stuff. So that's why you follow us on social media and get all the updates. So we're going to get into this, and this is like new territory. So we've never reviewed a comic book. We didn't even know how this was going to go. So I'm pulling up Marvel Unlimited now, just like so I have it with me. But Kirkland, because this was your idea, well, kind of pseudo idea for the show. So how was this read through? How was this reading? Because I know we've all kind of read comics here or there before for you guys, but like myself, I've read them quite a bit. Like House of M, I had read before, but for you, this is the first time you've read it. So what did you?
Yeah.
Well, how was your experience? And well, obviously, if people want to read any of this in the future, we're probably always going to pick storylines that are on Marvel Limited or the DC equivalent, just so you could easily read if you want. But Marvel Unlimited, it's $5 for the first month, $10 after. Like, it's a good deal, and you just have like thousands upon comics, and they're just cool. Like even the first thing, like it was so cool. I hadn't logged in this week, and when I went in, the first thing is Vision Quest, and that's all about like the White Vision. So it's like right when WandaVision episode 8 happened, it was like boom, and then right now the spotlight is Falcon Winter Soldier. So like if you want to get into comics, Marvel Unlimited is like a great way because there's it has so many great starting points. And hey, read this, read that, and
It's interesting. I feel like they do this intentionally. I mean, it makes sense, like to go with WandaVision, because like I'll be watching WandaVision episode, log in, and it's like character spotlight, Agatha Harkness, or something like that. That's just kind of relating to the show, because I'm sure like they've just got more subscriptions because of something like this. Yeah. So comics have always been an interesting spot for me because I've absolutely loved Spider-Man when I was younger. I had like a handful of the comics in there, not too many. And then like my dad's old collection, I know he has some Moon Knights in there. I just like, even when I was really young, I don't even remember like reading like the stories, just like flipping through for like the graphics. Oh, look at them flexing with this
Moon Knight Omnibus. Yeah, reading that today. Moon Knight was taking on the Hulk in a helicopter.
Yeah, that's so comics have always been an interesting spot for me because it's always been something that I've wanted to jump into more. Obviously it took me till I was 25 years. Look at him with his collection.
I
Check him
got
out.
3 more coming this year too.
Oh.
It's exciting.
I literally
Um,
switched banks because they're like, if you switch banks, you got $400. Like, oh, I'm gonna use this for comic books. So I got a Wolverine coming up. I got another Spider-Man one, and then Chris has almost talked me into another Spider-Man one as well.
right on. Yeah, so like I've always wanted to jump into more comics.
Mhm.
Obviously, I'm very excited to do this show because this is a perfect chance to talk to you guys about it and just read it together. But also, comics have just been like so intimidating for me because it's like, where do I start? You know, like, do I
Yeah.
start at issue 1, the very first comic that was ever made, or am I able to just jump into a random, series or something? So again, tying in with WandaVision, I was really excited for this because, especially having Travis kind of navigating me. I don't know Taylor's like experience. I don't know. Do you want to talk about your experience with comic books, Taylor?
My experience with comic books is, I mean, my first comic would have been Lego Bionicle comic. Like, literally back 2001, that's when it started in the Lego Club. So that aesthetic and that feeling of like holding this paperback comic and flipping through, seeing like the cool like images and just like the comments and the dialogue, like it just paints this clear picture in front of you that you feel like you're there. It just is so much more interactive,
Totally.
and that's what started me off on this journey. And since then, I've collected like odds and ends as far as comics go. Like I got a couple like Alien comics, I got other Assassin's Creed comics, and then Ghost
I
Rider
got some
comics.
Transformers comics,
Ooh,
Taylor.
yeah,
I can lend you.
I'd love to see
Yeah.
that. Um, I've recently like really gotten into Star Wars comics, so that like the Darth Vader series that Disney or yeah Disney's Marvel has been like, or Marvel Comics has been like working on has been so good. And again,
Mhm.
having that access on Marvel Unlimited is like fantabulous because I've been rereading the Darth Vader comics slowly but surely. It's just such a good time. Yeah, they got like so many Star Wars comics in there, so it's great. But yeah, just to dabble into like superhero comics for this first time is it's an experience. It's got some
Yeah.
moments.
Yeah, I like and like I guess like Archie's could be considered. I don't know. Is that a graphic novel or like the
Yeah,
Archie
it's
Yeah.
no,
comics?
it's a comic book, or maybe like it's a
Yeah.
comic strip, but it's technically a comic book.
Yeah, like
I
I
would
I
say.
remember like my dad got me a huge box of them at like a garage sale once. So like I just love the idea of graphic novels, the Bone series, if you guys are familiar with those
Hmm.
ones. Like all that stuff. So I just really like graphic novels. Um but unfortunately I just wasn't able to get my hands onto too many like comic books, like superhero comic books, other than like the Spider-Man ones. Like I
Hmm.
remember the first time I have like a I forget which one it is, but it's like Spider-Man and Venom, and it's in like plastic covering and everything. My
Oh
sister
yeah.
got it for me for my birthday one year, and I like that. It's just Venom is like one of my favorite like characters in the Spider-Man universe, and I use that like I just have that as like the holy grail in my eyes. Like it's just and it's even for me, I'm not the biggest comic book guy, but it's special, it's a special
Hmm.
item to have. So I can imagine someone like you, Travis, or other people that have been collecting comic books for like so long. Like it's a big thing, and I'm glad that it's not like a thing of the past. Like I feel like it's still going to be around for a long time, and people are
I
going to
hope
be,
so. Yeah.
yeah. And like something just reading through these ones, because the Avengers Disassembled, like what year is that? I think I asked you
It
this
was
before.
2004, I think,
So,
around
so
there. Yeah,
yeah,
which
so
was
quite,
we never figured out why on Unlimited it said like I wasn't sure if that was. I should have asked Chris before I went because I had read House of M around middle school. So like the writer for this, Brian Michael Bendis, he's very popular writer overall, but his biggest runs were with Marvel, and his biggest run was with Ultimate Spider-Man. And maybe one day we'll read that. But he's the guy that created Miles Morales, and
mm,
Ultimate Spider-Man is kind of like the similar vibe of what they have in the MCU as far as it was taking everything but then changing it. Like I said, I don't want to spoil too much, but it was always like, okay, Kraven the Hunter, you all know who Kraven the Hunter is. He's coming. And then what it says revealed, he's just a reality TV show host who gets in one punch by Spider-Man, and that's the end of the story. That was like the flip of like they take these classic characters and like twist them a little bit. So that's how he got popular for like this. Like he was on a roll in these like early 2000s, but that's what kind of was the scene as far as he was just like slaying it. He moved over to DC a few years ago. People, I'll say the most kind way to say is not a fan of his DC stuff. It's not met with the greatest reviews, and even myself, I haven't read it, but there is some stuff you hear go, oh, that's not the greatest. But yeah, his bread and butter was these early 2000s, and it was like this, the Spider-Man run. Like the Spider-Man run really put him on the map. It's like, okay, this is a writer you have to look after, and like I
Yeah.
said, I don't know why it says. Like I said, it's like 1990. I'll look at it again. Why? Yeah, it says
It's like
1998. But it came out in 2004, and it was definitely 2004 because I was reading this in middle school era. So
And that's not like this is based in 1998.
the only thing I could think of, and this actually might be it, is this. So as you're talking about with like getting into comics, and like that's why this is good as a debut episode, because comics, they are like super intimidating, and that's where it's like they do have storylines that run concurrently, like you have this and New Avengers, right, and stuff like that. But I found the best way to read comic books is every once in a while they will do some big event and they'll put all the continuity together, but eventually just splits apart. It's best just to do a James Bond style where it's like this is its own world, and they could definitely like they're like with the Ultimate comic books, they did Ultimate Iron Man, X-Men, Spider-Man, and Fantastic Four. Those are all in their same world, so you can easily be like, okay, these are, and the Ultimates, which were the Avengers, you could say, oh, these are all in their same world. So for most time, I always say like just read them as a one-off unless they are following something. It's the same
Right.
thing as Batman. He's had so many continuities. So what I'm thinking that date actually is this is a continuity, like continuation of whatever run started in 1998 of these characters. Because even when we talk about later, like House of M, they show like flashbacks to Scarlet and Pietro joining the Avengers, and it's really like the art's like older, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's what that actually might be, is that this is a continuation of that continuity. So, and you've probably seen it too when you're searching through Marvel Unlimited. Like if you were to search up Moon Knight, you'll see like, oh, there's like the 2012 to 2013 run, like they're dated. So
Right.
it's kind of like I said, the movie wise. So I think that's what it is, that it's this continuity of Avengers going
Okay.
on in 1998.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I mean, the reason why I asked the date was because I felt like the type of art style that I thought of like a comic book is that
Mhm.
older style, like you just mentioned the Wanda and Pietro, how it went to like the retro style. I I feel like reading through like Disassembled and stuff, like when it was just a lot more detailed, like in
Like
the
you
art
think of
style.
comic books like
Yeah,
that, right? Like the
exactly.
70s, the
100%.
60s.
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
100%. Like I think of like the Spider-Mans from that era and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I was
And I love that art. Like that's why I
yeah,
bought this
no,
one, because I just
totally.
love that golden age, like silver age
Yeah,
stuff. It looks so. Oh,
my favorite like Spider-Man show, or like I don't know if I'd say favorite now because I've like watched more shows since then, but
mhm.
my show growing up was like that 60s Spider-Man, and the art style, like it's funny because when you see the animation stuff, it's just like one screen just like moving back and forth, and it's just like it's
Yeah.
so dated, but like it's just so special to me, like that type of art style. Again, I grew up with it, so it's obviously got that nostalgia factor there. But so when I saw like these ones, I was just like blown away about the amount of detail in the art. That's why I was like, when did this come out? But it was actually like 2004. Like I'm sure it's gotten even
I was gonna
bigger
say I
ever
should give you
since
some
then.
current ones, like so, like that's
Yeah.
the one I'm waiting for it to go on. But the recent Moon Knight one, 2006, was like really really good, and I loved it. And like the art style is just crazy. But yeah, the art
Yeah.
is now, people are just on top of their game now
No,
because they're
100%. I'm
just like inspired by people of the past. So
totally. Such a big fan. Obviously, like I watch anime and stuff like that. I'm pretty snobby when it comes to my animation. I have like particular styles, but I really appreciate like when they have like that level of detail, whether it's like the shadows or just like some of these that are like
like
when
look at
you'd
this
flip
cover
to a
right now of the Hulk. Like look at that.
yeah,
That's
Jesus,
that's
with
from
like the
2 years
rain and
ago, yeah.
everything.
And I haven't read
Yeah.
this one, but this one's called the Immortal Hulk, and maybe one time we'll do it because apparently people say it's like a horror series, but with the Hulk, like
Ooh,
it's all
that'd
about
be
like
fun.
body horror and stuff. And
That'd
but
be
yeah,
lots of
it's
fun.
there's some great artists out there right now.
No, 100%. And just like what they can do, like, just with like the limited boxes that they have. But
Hmm.
what I was going to say is like when you flip, again, I was just reading on my phone, so I didn't have like the full effect. But like when you
Yeah,
flip to the certain pages, that it's just like one full page and it's just like kind of like one shot or maybe like a couple boxes. It's just like, man, like I could, like, I'm just looking at it. Like there's no words or anything, but I'm just looking at it for like a few seconds just to take it in. Like it's just so impressive what some of these artists can do. And I love these comics. They're really interesting storylines. I loved like the relationship pairings that I just didn't like think of,
yeah,
like shipping, these types of characters together. But like again, I'm like, fuck, like I just want to like know more about the relationship and their dynamics on how they go together and stuff like that. And there's just a lot of new things that I really appreciated reading through these. And again, I'm just so glad that we started doing this, because there's so much content out there, right? Like we're just reading like the Disassembled and House of M right now, and just that had so much in it, let alone
Oh
like
yeah.
thousands of other stories that they have. But yeah.
Well, yeah, Greg on the podcast network has said best. It's part of the reason why he does podcasts, because it gives you an excuse to consume this content. Because like, oh, gotta do it for
Yeah.
the podcast. It makes it that ticker. But so Taylor, like you said, you've dabbled in some comics. But what did you think about this? Was like your first like Marvel one? Obviously, we're gonna talk in specifics about the details, whatnot, because there's a lot of crazy stuff that happens in this one. But how was Avengers Disassembled, House of M? And I do have to shout Chris and Brent, because I hadn't read since middle school. And I was like, I don't remember, should we read Disassemble before we do House of M? And they're like, absolutely. And then when I was reading, I was like, oh, I'm glad we did this. Because House of M, when we
Yeah.
get into it, like the first issue just starts. And there's just so much kind of context actually missing from everything going on. So like, I actually feel without Disassembled, it's not like a bad story, but I feel like it's lesser than, because you don't get why she's there. But so yeah,
Yeah.
shout out to them, because those guys, they're reading comics on the daily, whatnot. My whatever collections don't compare to them. But Taylor, how was this for you?
Like honestly, I quite enjoyed it. I think this was like a really good introduction as well, because we're obviously reviewing WandaVision, and this
Yeah.
obviously is based on the comic series, and a lot of what was going on in the comic, it was nice because it filled in the gaps, even though the live action show, it's not like word for word based on the comics. I'm sure we'll find out that. And we'll confirm that tonight when we watch the finale for sure. But
I don't know. I want that Magneto panel. I know we're
Oh,
jumping
yeah.
across, but just that moment when Doctor Strange has Scarlet Witch and he's just like, hand over my daughter. And it's just like, man, I would love to see that moment so bad in live action.
Oh yeah, when I'm
Well-
reading it, I have like the voice of Fassbender in my head too.
Yeah.
Well, a lot. It's funny because you mentioned like Disassemble, like without reading that, it takes away a little bit from the House of M. And you're totally right. I didn't know we were supposed to read Disassemble first, so I read the first comic of House of M, and I was like, oh, like we're really getting into this story, like, and then I
Yeah.
missed something. And sure enough, yeah, Disassemble. I really like Disassemble's story. I like how it was kind of leading up, and just like there's so much just crazy shit going on. It was
Oh
just
yeah,
like
that first issue when it's just like the
Yeah.
bad day and like
Oh.
oh my goodness, and like and obviously it's like comic books things change, but like I forgot how many people actually died in this series. Like they killed off 3 major
Yeah.
characters.
And like when I see deaths in the MCU, it takes like 20 films to build up to these like super deaths, right? It's just like the first one I open up, I'm like, okay, I wonder how they're gonna get this guy back. Keep
Yeah, yeah.
flipping, getting a little bit more sad. It's like I don't think I'm getting this guy back.
Well, yeah, they are. They're not holding back in the comics. Like from what I can tell so far, them just killing off people and everything, like it's crazy. And the toll of mentality that these characters go through as well, like it doesn't compare at all to the films. Like their
No.
breakdowns and
Yeah.
their endeavors are just through the roof. Like I never have like again, like the worst I've seen Peter Parker in the films is maybe like when he's dealing with Gwen Stacy in Amazing Spider-Man 2 and then Tom Holland in Far From Home, but like
Well, what I was gonna say though is I would say in the MCU the biggest I've probably seen is what we just got last week with Wanda in that episode.
Yeah.
And that's where I do wonder if we get more. We will, not if, but the more MCU shows we get, if that's why we could get those moments, because we have the time to get those moments, right? In a movie, I don't know if you could have
Right.
dedicated to a half an hour of Wanda's life and how she's dealing with depression. How like that's definitely the closest to a comic book of like what she's going through. Where in the movies, you definitely get, I would say I would also count probably the first hour of Endgame, because that was a lot of the heroes sitting around being like super depressed, right? I'd say that's probably why I
Yeah.
love that movie. But most of the time, you're right, where it is just like, yeah, they got to move quickly. Like we got 2 hours. Like go, go, go. But I like they definitely they definitely just sit with a lot of their pain and anger and depression in these things.
That is a good comparison though to like the beginning of Endgame. A part of me feels like that's really the most type of like down and depressed we're gonna see these characters on a full like a film of the MCU, because I feel
Yeah.
like at the end of the day you want the whole family to be able to enjoy these films, right? You don't want like little Timmy just getting all sad because Peter Parker just got decapitated 10 minutes into the film or whatever they might do, And
Oh, Sony
like,
didn't re-sign? We know what to do with Peter.
first 10 minutes. Yeah, the like something like that you can get out of a show like WandaVision is like you don't have to have every episode being very depressing. Like
Yeah.
in WandaVision, like I imagine the end's gonna be pretty damn sad. But like
Oh
the
yeah.
last episode was like the saddest moment that we saw in the entire show, I would say, right? When she was breaking down, having a very emotional moment like that. Whereas in a full length film, it's like, okay, we want to have a lot of quips, we want to have a lot of fun and like action, obviously, and then you might be able to throw in a little bit of that stuff, but like just reading through these comics, it like you just mentioned, like the very first issue is just like, damn, like that is heavy. And then again, I'm like expect because like in my mind I'm thinking MCU where it's again like more lighthearted, whereas this, there's a moment with like Tony Stark just being all like drunk at the UN or something like that, and like there's so many moments where they just like blur out, like, you know, they would insert a swear. I like those because it's it gives some creativity to the reader. It's like, what I want him to say here, okay, I'm gonna make a new bad word that he can say. But it's just it's a much darker tone than I was expecting. Is kind of what I wanted to say there, and I really appreciate it though, because it's something new. It's not like I'm just reading the MCU. I'm reading something new with these characters that I know about and are in the Marvel universe, and so I love seeing that darker side, even though it was very depressing. This is I feel like a very I'm sure there's more lighthearted like
Oh yeah.
sagas out there that are not just so,
Yeah, there
like
definitely is. Well, and that's where it's like that's a good thing I think with the MCU though, where it's like Avenger Disassemble is kind of Endgame in a way. Like they are completely different stories, but as far as I feel like in the world we are in the MCU, I feel like the Avengers are a little disassembled. This is different because like eventually the government says like, "Hey, break up. We don't want you anymore. You've failed a bunch of times." Where that was like, well, they did do that in Civil War, but like in Endgame, it's like, well, they did win, but we don't really know the status of Avengers. There's not really was a true Avengers, so it almost makes sense like that happened, and then we get like the House of M equivalent, and that's kind of like this, where it's like the Avengers are apart, so then House of M happens. But yeah, like scrolling through this, and I also have my notes too. But like you lose Scott Lang in the first issue, you lose Vision, who is like he like the way he lands. And I actually forgot how early on he actually died in this comic. Like obviously it's issue 1 at the end, but it's like in this whole series he's just gone. And then you have just stuff like Tony Stark is drunk, but he's not really drunk. You have She-Hulk that just gets enraged like the Hulk, and you see like all these little. And now they've used the term in the MCU like chaos magic, but I think they do a good job in that first issue of just showing like everything really go to shit.
I thought they were gonna
Yeah.
kill Steve Rogers, to be honest, when She-Hulk was raging.
Oh
Like, oh
yeah.
my god.
Oh yeah. No, he was roughed up for sure.
Well, and you talking about that line, there's the first line I wrote about Tony when it's him and Hank. They go to that UN meeting, and Tony, he like Scarlet, kind of unknowingly puts a spell that he might be drunk because he's like, I didn't drink, I haven't had a drop in years, but like I felt drunk. But then when he says that comment to Hank Pym, is like, don't you have a wife to beat or something? And this is one thing that they haven't really touched in the movies. They just said like Hank's a bad husband, but that was a storyline where Hank Pym like was a drunk and he was like a wife abuser and everything like that. And they've obviously like made that character come around. Yeah, oh yeah, no, he had a really dark past. And that was just like such a shot. And then also in the first issue, I just wanted to shout out at one point when I like this is just so comic booky, where it's one of these things like, okay, this feels dumb, but like they're fighting the Ultrons, and I believe it's Steve. I didn't write it, but like he takes down one, and he's like, no head, no Ultron, and I'll have to look. It's either Steve Falcon or She-Hulk, but it's just like, yeah, like I feel like we could figure that one out. But yeah, that first issue is just carnage going around. It really sets the tone for what's to come later on.
Was
And it just happens like so abruptly too. So
Yeah.
like I said, like I was in disbelief, like reading through it. I'm like, okay, this must be, I don't know. I didn't know what I was in for. So again, as we were reading more issues, just like, man, like I actually just have to swallow this pill, I guess. Like this is the reality that I'm in now.
was it the no, it wasn't the first issue with the Kree popping in. That was later, right?
That was later, yeah, because that's when Hawkeye dies. I'm scrolling through them right now.
Right.
Yeah, the first issue was I can't remember what's his name, Blue Jack or whatever he is. I don't know that character that much. Where he is like risen back from the dead, but he explodes, and then
So
that's what.
what is that exactly? Because I read that and I was like, I don't understand why he's back. Is that Wanda just doing her shit?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's because like how we learn how well no, before House M is just like she can't control it, and it's like the chaos magic, and she doesn't even know. Because remember when we get to House of M, she's like, oh, and I killed I killed Vision, I killed my husband. So she didn't even have any recollection that this was happening. Kind of like. I feel like the show did that a little bit where she had an idea of some stuff going on, but not all of it, or she didn't know how big it was getting. So I think she just indirectly brought him back. And like I said, I don't know much about that character. I've not even read that much of the character in that arc, but poor Scott Lang bit the dust there, and that was he gone. But then later on is when, and obviously I think it's near close to the end, but yeah, Hawkeye, that's how he dies, is because the Kree just come to Earth because like something told them they needed to come to Earth and invade and take over. Same as Ultron, where it was like, oh, the only reason he like came back is because the Avengers were at their weakest. But then also Hawkeye, he bites the dust too in that like those later issues where he's gonna go up. I can't remember what he's doing with the Kree or robot soldiers or anything like that, but he's like goes up with them to take out the ship and then just blows up and he's gone too. And I love Hawkeye quite a bit in the comic books. He's like the most douchey he's maybe ever been in this series. Like the way when he was talking about like getting on with I can't remember who was he talking about that was green. I can't remember, was it a Skrull or something like that? But then like She-Hulk walks in the room and he has that long hair. And you guys talked about like at the very beginning when they're just at the table, and
I think
we
it was
talked
like a villain, wasn't it?
It was a villain.
Yeah.
yeah. And
Talking about
he's just
smashing her. He's just such a bro dude.
Oh yeah, he is. And then like just like the weird like bedfellows of like him and Wasp are a couple at the moment,
Yeah.
and like this is one thing that I was talking about a few weeks ago. Is like Snyder pitched this to Warner Bros. They didn't want it, but like one of the pitches he wanted was like for Bruce and Lois to be like shacking up. I didn't think it fit that story, but I do want more in comic books, like mixing of pairings. I don't think we'll get that in the MCU because they don't really do that much with dating and stuff like that. But that's kind of my hope with X-Men or more like Disney Plus shows, that we can get like weird relationships. You know, like I want like at one moment like in the comic books like Falcon got on with like the Mighty Thor, which was Jane Foster. So like I want like the weird pairings and stuff. And this has a lot of them. But yeah, Hawkeye quite douchey in these series and meets his untimely death.
Madam Hydra Viper.
Madam Hydra Viper. There you go.
Never heard of her before. I actually had a question.
She's in the Wolverine, I believe. They're referring to the same one. They have the rights to her now, but yeah, she's in the Wolverine. Yeah.
So like the guy that basically blew up, Scott, or no, sorry, yeah,
Scott. He killed Scott Lang there.
So again, it happened so fast, but like it almost seemed like an anti-hero type character, but like how did he even like blow up in the first place?
I feel like I gotta find his actual name because I feel like the way they were
Jack of Hearts or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like the way they were talking about him, his power was that if he were to die or something, he would just blow up or something like that. But where was it? Let's see here. So I got the he just called him
Hart, Jack of Hearts.
Jack of Hearts. Let's
Avenger deceased.
Let's see what Jack of Hearts got's going on. But the one thing I really want to show was in issue 2, because that battle took out Jan and she was all hurt and everything like that. There's that moment where Hank and Jan she's like unconscious, but because she got knocked out during battle, she's still small, and she's in like this little hospital bed while he's regular size. It's just some really cool panels that like she is, that size, and he talked about how worried he is because she's that size, but just some really cool creative stuff.
No, 100%, and like you just meant, like it is very creative because it. Like in my eyes, it's like, how would you, like a modern doctor, like how do you repair someone that's that small? Like I feel like it's totally changes the whole game in that situation. And I don't know, they easily could have made it where she just got knocked out and then she just came back to full life, and then they're kind of mending her back there. But it's just definitely attention to detail. Big props to them on that one.
His name is Jonathan Hart, of course, has to have the same names and whatnot. He was formerly Avengers, former S.H.I.E.L.D., Defenders. I'm trying to find his... Yeah, he's deceased, yeah. Trying to find his full-on powers. His unusual features are left half the body turned purplish black from a direct exposure to zero fluid.
Sounds like Two-Faced.
Left eye with white membrane covering the entire pupil. I'm trying to find his actual powers, but I didn't even get that. But like when you search him up, I feel like it's one of these things. Like he looks very much like Nova, if you know what Nova is, where that powers are like cosmic powers. So I feel like it'd be something like, oh, if he died, he might blow up. But here we go. He has zero energy blast, flight, superhuman strength, superhuman durability, accelerating healing factor. Let's see. So yeah, I feel like it's just because his power. Maybe they worry like if he died, he'd blow up or something. Like he's a nuke or something like that. But
Well, it almost seemed like they already thought he was dead. They're like how
he
are
was
you
definitely
even here?
dead. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he was dead. Yeah, and he got brought back.
Yeah, he looked pretty zombie-like when we saw him.
He was not looking good.
Um, one of the things that I wanted to mention, I don't know why, but I really got a kick out of Nick Fury in this series. Like he just was such like an asshole, but his dialogue too, especially when the Kree showed up and they could see it, and he's talking to the guy. There's like a full on segment of him just having this dialogue with some shield agent, and he's like, "Why don't you look out the goddamn window?" or something like that. Like it's just, and sure enough, there's a Kree warship. But he's very different. Again, not that I'm comparing it to MCU, but he's so much more less trusting of the Avengers. It seems like
Oh,
when you
yeah.
have like literally every single Marvel superhero you can think of outside the mansion, and he just shows up and he's like, "Everyone just go!" Like
Oh,
doesn't
I got
Yeah.
that
work.
photo too.
Yeah, yeah. You're not needed, or like
Yeah.
this is a crime scene, and it's like fuck. He's definitely way more like I feel like they do that. They do that a little bit in the movies. I feel like the most they did was Avengers when like Coulson dies and he not covers it up, but he's like, "Oh, he had these in his pocket." I wish they did a bit more of the whole like Fury has these secrets and everything, and they kind of tapered off from that. But like in the comic books in general, I feel maybe some newer versions now because eventually they did switch over to look like Samuel Jackson. He played the role, and I actually haven't read much Fury in newer comics. It doesn't feel like he's around that much, but definitely in the comics, in my opinion, he's way more bullheaded and way more like, yeah, he'll work with the Avengers, but it's still his way or the highway. Where like at one point I feel like in the Avengers movies MCU, like the Avengers tell him like we're doing this. Oh, it's Winter Soldier, like we're doing this. Like, okay. But like Nick
Yeah.
Fury would never like he's gonna bite his tongue the whole time and think like he's gonna be the told you so guy, but oh yeah, he's just like such an unlikable person. You know he's right and you know he's trying to do the right thing, but he's
Well,
just such a dick all the time.
But like honestly, that's what I like about that character. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's not like he's intimidated by like these like there's literal god like figures that are these
Oh, yeah.
superheroes, and like to him it's just like get the fuck out of here. Like this is my
I got a
crime
job
scene.
to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I really like that type of character. I love Sam Jackson, but I almost feel like I like what this character is in the comics maybe more.
Mm.
Just it's just something new, and I feel like he is a lot more I don't know, like different layers than what we get in Sam Jackson, especially now that like I saw him like Captain Marvel, and like he just seems like a buddy sidekick to, you know, Brie Larson and this now, which, you know, doesn't take away from it any like, but I spent like even just like the version that we get in, like Marvel Ultimate Alliance,
Like the OG versions.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and that's what I was gonna say is like hopefully maybe with his show Secret Invasion we could get some of that, even though I think that'll just
Yeah.
be more about the mystery aspect. But I think that's tough because like I still really like Fury, and I think you still want Sam Jackson to be Sam Jackson, right? You still want that charm and
Right.
charisma, right? So it's like you want that type of performance. But yeah, I have a question about issue 3, and we're gonna get into it after this ad break because this helps support the channel and everything like that. We'll be right back. So, part 3 in Avengers Disassembled, when you got to the cover of One of These Avengers Will Die, and it was a photo of Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, Hank Pym, and Janet the Wasp. Did you have any theories when you read that? Did you think it was going to be Hawkeye when you got to that cover? Or did you even think one of them
No.
was going to die?
I personally I thought it was gonna be the Wasp.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know. I didn't put too much thought into it. I honestly thought Hawkeye was gonna like make it, especially since he's like the cover man. That's probably why they did that.
Oh, well, yeah, they did it because you think he's not going to die. He's the main cover
Yeah.
guy, and he's Avengers. And even then, it was surprising because I liked last issue we didn't talk about, but at one moment, it was like Iron Man, Cap, Falcon, him, and one other, and they were talking about like all this bad stuff happening and everything like that. And Hawkeye's kind of the voice of reason of like this all doesn't make sense. Like why is it happening now? You know, and he's still like he's trying to play middleman as far as like Tony walks away. He's like, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just trying to find out like what's wrong going on. So he's doing his best to try and like figure out what's going on, try to be the middleman. I'll try and pull some of that stuff up. But I really liked him. I really love Hawkeye in the comic books. I've talked about that in the movies before. And
I loved him in these comic books.
yeah,
Also, I just love seeing his outfit.
I
I
know.
think that purple is so fucking cool. I understand why we didn't get like, a full purple suit with like the mask and everything in the live action movies. It's a little out of place, but something that I really loved was like the mixture of costumes in this one. It felt like we had like a very modern Iron Man suit, and then we had like the classic like vintage Hawkeye suit.
Mhm.
It didn't have like the giant H, right? That's what he has in like the OG
No,
ones.
but he still
It
has
didn't-
those goggles that kind of
yeah,
go up
so
a
like
little.
that
Yeah.
looked really cool. And then like we just showed that big shot of all the heroes like basically outside of the mansion. You got the Black Panther, like with the cape and everything. I think that's such a dope look. Oh my gosh. And that's not T'Challa, right? That's a different Black Panther.
I didn't catch if it was because does
Oh,
he
okay.
go away at some I can't remember if he goes
I
away.
for some
Or are you
reason
just
I
asking
thought
because the cape? I think the cape was just a costume choice,
no
but
no no
it has.
I thought like when they were at like when Tony was all drunk at the conference, I thought like T'Challa was there, but like he wasn't the Black Panther. I felt like he was just the representative of Wakanda. Again, I could be entirely
He
wrong. Maybe I missed
well,
that
I think
detail.
he could be both though at the same time, right? He doesn't have to be
No,
as
no, for
Black
sure. I
Panther.
just
Yeah.
because like there's been different Black Panthers in the comics.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure. So I
Sure, he's been one. His dad,
and
obviously.
yeah, and I feel like the cape might have thrown me off. I obviously haven't seen that version, but fuck, I just love that shot of all the superheroes in front of the mansion. I spent so long just looking at all of them. I'm like, oh, is that? I think I saw Spider Woman in there. I think
Yeah.
Emma Frost. And I mean, we'll get to Emma Frost. She's pretty relevant in House of M. I
Mm.
absolutely loved her as a character.
She's interesting.
Especially since the only time I saw her was in the X-Men movies, which is just some like lackey type
Yeah.
character. I really like. She was the new Charles essentially in the House of M, and I wanted to see more of her. Like I want to see her in the MCU at some point. I think she's a really cool character with a lot of different details, and I feel like she does a good job at filling the role of the all-knowing psychic, which would be Charles. But maybe it's too soon to recast Patrick Stewart, in that role. Maybe having someone like her to replace her is the right way to go. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
Again, I was jumping all around there.
No, that's fine because I have a point about that. But this was the quote I was trying to find when Hawkeye, after all the bad stuff he has, he's like, and you know what else? We all had it coming. I'm not going to say this is going to be the most popular thing, but yeah, we had it coming. We're all about the short term. We're all about whatever is in front of us. And then the second that happens, we're on to the next thing. We think about Jack, his dad. We leave him up there in space. What do we know, right? Because now we got Namor to deal with and all this and that. And that's why I was pointing out there's this whole thing of just like, he's just going on. And you wouldn't think Hawkeye, like even in the comic books, like he's a bit more, and they probably gave him a bit of this shine because they knew they were going to kill him. But like even in the comics, he's sometimes a bit more jokey and more the comedic relief guy. It's definitely steered away from that. But I liked him being that point of reason. But yeah, well, I guess I'll save my points for Emma Frost when we get to her because yeah, there's some interesting stuff of her as a character. But Taylor, anything? You didn't answer. Who did you think was going to die from that cover when you got to it?
Again, I'm probably kind of like on Kirkland's side where I didn't put too much thought into it because we just had some people get killed off. So I was like,
Yeah.
what, are they actually gonna kill off more people? No.
At this point, I'm still like, okay, we're gonna get Scott back in this issue, so something
Yeah.
like that. I'm still all innocent, used to my MCU mindset.
Yeah. So I definitely wouldn't have. I didn't expect them to go ahead and kill off. But again, that line that you quoted, Hawkeye, I really really liked how he just kind of shed light on that and said that. But yeah, his death, like, it definitely kind of irked me because I thought, no, Hawkeye's in this for the long run, and then all of a sudden he's like, I don't feel so good, and he's just gone. So
And I will say, just flipping through this because I have things in my notes as well. Like, it's definitely something where it's been talked about for years and they've changed. But like, Warm Blood Male, sure, I like Captain Marvel's costume, but man, it is just like the most like dude broy. Like when you look at like her and Cap hugging, it's just like the thong. Like, and it's just like, why is she fighting crime in this? Like, she's just literally in a one piece, and like it's stuck. There was so many shots of her drawings of that in this book where it was like, wow, she really was just like wearing nothing. So it was so funny like seeing all that, and that was only like 20 years ago, and now she has like the suit and the short hair, and so much has changed. But
Yeah.
it was so funny seeing that like OG costume and whatnot. But yeah, we talked about, poor Hawkeye doesn't make it. He dies in the Kree battle there, and it's just a tough go for the Avengers. And then I think that's the last issue before we get to Avengers Finale. I'm just scrolling through here. Yeah, Avengers Finale I put in there because it's kind of like it has not too much to do with the story, but it's like a great like send off. I love this issue so much because it's literally just like in TV shows how it's like the flashback episode, but I love that it's just like each member like recalling what they love about the Avengers or why they joined. And I think it's Falcon that points it out, but he's like once everyone shares their stories, he's like none of us shared a story about when we were on the team. It was always like before. And then someone points out it's like, well, yeah, maybe once you're on the team, like the dream of the Avengers breaks. You know, like you want to join the Avengers and you look at them as just like this gold standard of superheroes, but then once you get in there, you're just like, oh no, it's just like everything else. Like it's murky, it's bad. And I think that Avengers Finale or final issue is like that's almost something I would give somebody to read, even though you have to read in this run for anything that you've never run Avengers, because it literally like is the gamut of like the 2000s, the 90s to the very first time when they're like, oh, when we found Cap on the ice or when we formed the Avengers.
Right.
Like it's like a whole history lesson of the Avengers, and I really love it. And I love that this is the point where the government said like, hey, you guys aren't working out. The public wants more from you. It's not happening, and they're just kind of. Obviously, they're bummed out. Like, there's like some people are healed. Like She-Hulk says she's done crime fighting because she almost lost it. Hank and Janet are going to make one last go of it and try again. But I love, and you know, Hawkeye's been dead, so I guess she can move on. But like, and then I love when they walk out to the patio and they have all those, you know, not fans, but like the public, like the people still supporting the Avengers with obviously there to like immortalize like Hawkeye and all that, but they're still there with their candles and like, you know, trying to show like they still believe in the Avengers even if they're breaking up, and just like really good stuff. Also, we didn't read. I read some of it, but like it sets up the new Avengers well because the government's like, hey, we need like we're gonna pick some new people. But like I love that whole because I feel like that's very Endgame-ish where it's just like what are we? What was the past? And I love all those flashbacks of everything.
No, yeah, like seeing like the old school Iron Man suit, like the Mark 1 or I don't know what mark that would be.
Who knows? Yeah, probably Mark 1's the big silver one.
Right, so probably Mark 2, 3, something like really early issue. It just looks really bulky and cheesy. But and like even just like when they're all like meeting there, like it's so ominous and morbid. And you have these like kind of like uplifting flashbacks. I thought that was really, really, really cool issue. Did we? And then. Sorry, was there another issue before this one?
There is because that's we confuse this from reading because the reading order has it published before. So there was the like reveal issue which
I was thinking like the beginning was Scarlet Witch and Wasp at the pool. That scene we saw some more cartoon ass in that one.
See, I give that the pass because you know why?
Oh,
they're
man,
swimming. Yeah, and they're swimming. It makes sense why they'd be in swimsuits. Captain Marvel just in her swimsuit fighting crime is just
that's
like
true. Yeah.
But yeah, no, we can kind of tie them together because like you had the finale of like that's the goodbye to the Avengers, but then the actual like reveal of
this shot is so beautiful. Oh my god, that little art style that they had. This is in the Avengers Finale one between Vision and it's just such like it's so different from like the like what we saw in the graphic novels. It's like a very almost like a fan art like tribute, you know, and again it's fitting because we're watching WandaVision right now. It's kind of just highlighting their connection and that finale like you mentioned it was so well done. And I mean you said it best. It really, you know, like the good old days, like just doing flashbacks through different times, whether they're finding Steve and
that
Now,
moment.
Taylor,
That moment where it was Wanda and Wasp by the poolside. So they were implying that. And again, I feel like I missed something. Wanda was pregnant, and it was she wasn't. I feel like she was insinuating that, and I feel like she was insinuating that it was with Hawkeye, or something along those lines.
So this is what was happening this is when Wasp and Hawkeye were together, and this is the line that just sets everything off when she's just talking about like the future and if her and Hawkeye could have kids, who could have a family and everything like that. And then she goes, Avengers should not have kids, superheroes should not have kids, that should be a rule, and you thought you could have two. And then you get to the next panel and you have Janet just be like, you know, making that face, and she goes, what? So they were just talking about like the concept of having kids, and because there's like they kind of go over it a bit in House of M, another good one is to read is The Vision. That has a lot of the history lesson too. But so like they talk about in the first issue how she did have these children, but then they weren't real and they kind of like wiped her mind. So all the like lots of Avengers, like honestly they should have wiped a lot more Avengers minds, because the fact that all this happened because Janet just fucking let something slip, very bad, because like it's literally just
Yeah.
like, you know, and you could understand if like the same way we've talked about in the WandaVision show where it's like, hey, if no Avengers even check on her, why would she want to be with these people? It's like, fuck you guys. Like,
Totally.
you left me. So this is the equivalent of that. And that's why I feel like, yeah, like WandaVision's not the exact same house of them, but they definitely take things. And I feel like that's the same thing as like, you guys all knew I had these 2 children and you just been lying to me for like years about it, that I went through this experience. Like, yeah, I'd be pretty pissed too. Like, it
Yeah.
justifies all our actions. But yeah, that was a good
That-
startup. And then you just see the down roll events of what happens after that pool meeting.
100%. Yeah. Well, it goes like now, you know, like
Yeah.
with the explosion of the. But I love that intro like pool scene. I felt like that was actually very similar to WandaVision, specifically when she like said that, and then we see Wanda just be like what did you just say? And like you know, we've heard Elizabeth Olsen's Wanda, you know, say that throughout the show, just kind of snap out of the reality. At first, it didn't hit me like the relevance of that and how
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's kind of after the events that they've wiped her mind or all that stuff. So I thought that was really well done though, because it kind of hit me as I was reading through that issue. But yeah, I really like that setup scene, especially because it's all like happy days, you know, just chilling at
Oh,
the
yeah.
beach or at the pool, and we're just all having a fun time. And then now it's like the mansion's just on fire. Scott's
Everyone's dead, yeah.
Hawkeye's dead. You know, we got all these deaths.
Doctor Strange just showed up. But Taylor, did you have more on that? Like, because I clarified that. Was there more you wanted to bring up?
No,
or was
no, that
just-
that
yeah.
was just it. Yeah.
So what did you think? So Taylor, our first introduction of Doctor Strange this series, because he's not a factor until like the end, and then he shows up because he is the tipping point to be like, okay, something's wrong here other than just a threat, and he's kind of the one that like gets all the threads together to show like, this is, you guys might not think it, she might not even think it, but this is Wanda Maximoff like popping off and going crazy and everything like that. Like that explains it. So what do you think of Doctor Strange season? Obviously we've not seen the finale, but this like was a lot of like people like lots of people speculate like this could be an end credit scene or we could still see Stephen Strange in the show. I'm still gonna say no. I think they're gonna save that for the movie, but I can see why people jump to the conclusions because there is inspirations and you could see Doctor Strange maybe eventually showing up and be like, okay, like what the hell is going on here? Like, where is like Scarlet Witch or Wanda, whatever she'll be called now? You know, so like, what do you think about Doctor Strange's use in this?
So I'm just trying to remember. So he came in near the end, right? And was just like laying down the law and just kind of.
Yeah, I think it was at the end, right after Hawkeye died. He was
Yeah.
at the end there and like, hey, I have to talk to you guys. And then the opening of this was him explaining the whole story of like we just talked about with Wanda, her kids, the mind wipe for people that didn't know, and just like she's doing this and she can't control it. There's a line where it's just like imagination is her enemy and reality controls her. So it's that thing of like he's explaining what's going on, and we get more of that in House M. But literally, he's saying like she doesn't even know. She might just imagine something and it just happens because she's just that strong. So she might be like, I just wish I had peanut butter sandwich. Oh, that's great. But then other stuff that's bigger, not so much.
Yeah. Again, I liked when he popped in, and it's just the way he addressed everybody. He just had that commanding kind of aesthetic to himself, and he's just a force to reckon with because it feels like even in the comics when Doctor Strange appears, you know, it's like not like the end game, but you know, like this is the real deal. This is like this surpasses Avengers level threat. This is serious, and again, the presence he brings about with him is just great, and yeah, I like his character a lot. I'm really digging his character, and God, I should have reread the comics before we did this. It just feels like such a long time ago. Um, I'm trying to remember what else that he addressed, because yeah, he was just wasn't he talking about chaos magic, and he was talking about Wanda, like her capabilities, and she was kind of just shedding the light on the team of like what to do about her. Not in the sense like I don't think he was hinting at like we have to kill her or anything along those lines yet. I think
No, that comes later when Wolverine gets in.
yeah.
He's all about like fucking just taking her out, like with no care, no malice whatsoever. He's just like, yeah, we got to put her down. That's it. Like, and everyone's like, no, she's an X-Man. Blah, blah. Like, no, it doesn't matter. She's an Avenger. And he's like, I don't care either way. We're gonna kill her. And yeah, I think he's just like I think he just like he gives the exposition of what she's been doing, but also just
Yeah.
lays out as far as like, hey, she does have to be stopped because like this is bad stuff going on.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we get oh sorry, go ahead. Because all I was gonna bring up next is that scene where she goes to Agatha's place, and that's kind of which is
Yeah.
funny because obviously you guys now know Agatha Harkness, she's a character, but obviously here much different, very frail looking old woman and stuff like that.
I just want to touch upon Doctor Strange and his appearance in the comics. He just seems so much more powerful in the comics. Like for me, maybe it's just I don't know, like because I saw his like movie, like that was like kind of the first appearance with him. It's just like he just seems like one of the Avengers, whereas, and like of course, you know, he can turn back time. He's got the eye of Agamotto, and
Not anymore.
not anymore. But you know, he's just what's his title?
The Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah, so he's the Sorcerer Supreme. You
He's
know, like
pretty powerful though. He's the
yeah.
whole cause of the Endgame battle though, right?
They
He opens
hold
up
back
those
though in the
portals.
movies. They're totally
No,
holding
yeah,
them back.
but like his it's just like his ambiance that he brings when he's on like the comic, like the box that we get him, like he's glowing, you know, like it's just this huge like ominous presence. Whereas, you know, I got Benedict just on screen and he's just kind of standing there.
He's
Stephen
like the Wizard
Strange,
of Oz in the comics.
he's just looking for Rachel.
Well, see, I'll defend the movies a bit just because we've not seen him much with the Avengers or MCU yet, right? We got Doctor Strange, and then he was in Infinity War. He's in Endgame for like 5 minutes, and in Infinity
Well,
War, he's just in space with Tony and Spider-Man. So I feel like we could get more of these moments down the line. Like I feel like him showing up in Spider-Man could be one of those moments too. Like
right.
we know he's gonna be
Oh,
that. So I
definitely.
feel like he like still I feel like we still got like at least 2 more movies with Benedict. So I
Yeah.
feel like there's lots of chances now that
Well,
like Cap's gone, Iron Man, that he'll get like these big moments.
I hope so because honestly, I felt like the old Sorcerer Supreme. Oh gosh, what was her
Ancient
name?
one.
The ancient one. Like I felt like she had a more ominous, like just powerful presence than Stephen Strange has. Just for me personally, again,
Mhm.
like you just mentioned, maybe that'll change when we see his appearances down the line. But I just felt like the first appearance that I got from him in the comics, right off the bat, he's this huge presence. Everyone just stops what they're doing to just pay attention to him. And like Infinity War, obviously, he's got really powerful powers when he's doing his spasm thing and seeing all the different
Mhm.
predictions and all these or like outcomes that would happen. And like I don't want to discount his powers or anything. I just felt like overall he just seems so much like he seems like a god almost like in the comic books. And I felt like like for me personally, I haven't seen that in the movies.
Well, I think there's a few things as far as one, like we've met him in like his origin story, right, in the movie. So
Yeah,
it's like the
he's a
same thing.
doctor.
Like he's still, yeah, he's a doctor. Like he's still very new to all this, and
Right.
I still feel like it's tough because like when you bring up that he comes in and he feels like a god and everything like that, and people stop, and you can do that, but the thing is, it's tough because like I feel like he does that a lot in these crossovers or comic books when he's not the main character. Where in our
That's a good
movie,
point. Yeah,
we
that's a
got to
good point.
follow him, right? And we got to see him be weak, and we got to see him struggle. Where when he's just in these crossovers, we don't have to see it. Because I think the best example of like not like it was like a stopping moment, but I think is Thor Ragnarok when right when Loki's on Earth, he knows right away and he just portals him. Like Loki, this powerful being, he just throws a portal and Loki's falling for 30
That's a good
minutes, and
point.
then he
Yeah.
gets like he's messing around with Thor. So I feel like in the crossovers, you could see him be like a lot more powerful. Again, who knows? And I wasn't even the biggest fan of the first Doctor Strange. Second one has Sam Raimi directing, and I think that it's going to be interesting because I feel like if you are dealing with something like the multiverse, you're going to have to put him on that scale now. If he's the one like closing it, and we've seen what Wanda can do, and she's starting to get that scale. So if he's going to fight her, I think you're also going to see that. I would hope more in the future down the line as far as him having that kind of presence and whatnot. And maybe they won't. Maybe and that's part of some of my reason why I don't like the first Doctor Strange with the jokes because I feel like him being also a quipper hurt him a bit. Where I feel like in Infinity War he's not really. So
And also, like what I've seen in the comics, I don't get that from him, where he's just like cracking
yeah,
jokes. You know, like
no,
he is all serious.
down to
He's
business. Yeah.
fucking glowing. I can hear his voice echoing in my head as I'm reading it on the page. Like, and again, like you just mentioned, Travis, like it could probably change like with these crossover movies, but I don't know. Maybe in hindsight, maybe a better choice would have been to have his origin story, you know, after he was already in the movies. I don't know.
Mm.
Again, obviously, there's nothing I can do about it, but in a what if, you know, what the MCU could have been. I don't know. It's a great series, or it's a great selection or collection of movies. So I'm no Feige. I don't think I can make it any better or anything like that. But for me personally, I just felt like he was. What do you got there?
Oh, I'm just showing. I love that panel when Doctor Strange is explaining her past,
Oh
because
yeah,
all the Avengers at one point are questioning her, like, no, she couldn't do this, blah blah. And just like the artwork of like the green and the red, like just this
yeah.
panel of just like everything from Wanda, and it just is just really cool stuff there. But she's had
No,
some
yeah.
different looks over the years. She's my goodness. But yeah, so then we get that reveal. So she comes out. She's, I won't say defeated quickly, but she just kind of comes out as far as like we get this dinner scene, which sucks for her. But it's just like Vision's there, the kids are there. None of it's real. Just kind of again House of M. Like even if you look at the panels, it's kind of like black and white as well. So it almost as like a tribute to, well, House the WandaVision's kind of a tribute to that. And this is Steve trying to talk her out of it, saying, it's not real and stuff like that. And then we kind of lead to that moment like we talked about of she gets taken out because she comes down, superhero. And there's this great moment where like maybe you guys wouldn't get this, but like so like Steve goes to attack her. She just spawns like imagination like Nazis and Red Skull. That's
Yeah.
cool. Captain Marvel goes to attack her. She spawns Rogue because Rogue like took away her powers for a little bit. So like all these people trying to attack her, and she's just like giving them their worst fear and everything like that. And then Doctor Strange takes
Yeah.
her out.
We get this amazing shot. He's using, it looks like the Eye of Agamotto.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is a sorcerer supreme in my eyes. It's not this guy that just meditates and snaps his head around, being like, I don't think we got. Maybe there's one. Maybe I'm just shitting on it too much.
I
You
think
are.
I think your mind will change when we get Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, I'll stay open minded until then, and if I'm disappointed, I'll come back to shitting on him.
But yeah, so then they have a big battle there, and at some point, Nick Fury's looking for Agatha. Agatha's just a skull and bones. She's completely
That
dead.
caught me off guard. Like
That is what we're gonna
really.
see tonight at midnight, guys.
Yeah.
There could be a chance because Agatha does come back as a ghost later on in the Marvel Universe comic book. So
Well,
there's
I
a
was
chance she could be a ghost.
I was reading into her character. Looks like she dies more than once.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we got that great panel. We were talking about at the very beginning of the episode of "Give Me My Daughter," and it's just like, and that's where I do love, and I don't know if they will do that in these movies because obviously the X-Men, or they might call them the mutants, coming up in the MCU. Like
saw that.
I love we're gonna talk about that tonight. I love in the comic books how she's kind of caught between two worlds because like she is a mutant. She's from Magneto's like genetics and everything like that. That's kind of her family or brotherhood. But she feels like the Avengers are much more accepting of her. And we even get that talked about in House of M. And even the back and forth where it does almost feel like the Avengers look at her as more as a family member. Where, like I said, multiple X-Men members feel like they will. Maybe no one's as talkative as Logan being like, yeah, we should just kill her. But they feel like they're like considering it, or they should talk about it at least. Where all the Avengers are like, no, we're not doing this. We're not going to kill her. But the X-Men are like, we should have a discussion about it. And it just shows like how like I'm always Team X-Men, but it just shows sometimes how a bit they are, because I think they're just jaded from life. They kind of have to be black
Right.
and white on issues because they're just like they've been shit on and just done terrible things their whole life. It's kind of like, well, what do we do? You know, because she's gonna ruin this
Yeah.
for the rest of us. Like any progress, they stress that a lot. Like any progress we make, because they cover up the whole everything that happened in Disassembled. Later on, it comes out, of course, but they don't say Wanda did that. It's just as like, oh, all this bad shit went down. So as X-Men, they don't want that coming out because then it's just like, oh, great, another mutant lost it
Right.
and
Yeah.
destroyed everything. You know?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like from the side of the mutants, it makes more sense. Like their disdain for that type of character. Because for one thing, if you're a good mutant, and then you have like what you just mentioned, like if the world finds out that another mutant is just ruining the world, you know, all these things. The one that really shook me, and again, it kind of goes into the Spider-Man House of M stuff when like he snaps and he's like, we got to take her out. Like we got to fucking murder this.
Oh yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm like, Peter, come on. You're supposed to be a nice guy. But like at the same point though, like I was I don't know, murder's never good, but I understood where he was coming from. Like she really fucked his life up, right? Like especially replacing, you know, his lover with a
That
fallen
was
lover.
so fucked. That was
Yeah.
so fucked.
Very fucked, yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's not even that. Like he like, and that's the big thing about House of M is like, and we'll like we're gonna probably jump all over with House of M, but like, so the first issue is like the first panels or whatnot. It's Charles and Eric just being like, what do we do with Wanda? Because she's just like, like they're just talking about like we talk about we get to like should we kill her or not, but they're just like can we help or whatnot, and then you get those first great panels of you get the flashbacks of with Vision. I love just like her giving birth and like Doctor Strange is there as like the doctor like helping them out and everything. Like it's just so
Yeah.
cool, and like but you get to see like she's starting to realize like I did this, I killed Vision, all this stuff, but then we get there and we get to House of M and the Avengers, and I love and the same thing when we get that moment too with Wolverine when now he's an Avenger, and they're like, oh, when are your Avengers gonna show up? Like the X-Men always talk about like the Avengers, like they're just like they're cliques, right? They're literally like it's much more meaningful than that, but it's like they are just cliques, and it's just like it's so funny for the X-Men to kind of be on the lowest totem pole of like mankind that they look down on people just so much, which they should because like their history, but they're just like high and mighty with them all. But yeah, and then the reciting, I guess the incident is Wanda goes missing, and that's the big thing because Pietro says they're gonna kill. Like, he's talking with Magneto, and I guess what Pietro did, he like quickly ran to hear what was going on in the meeting. Then he like ran back, and he's telling Magneto they're gonna kill her. So Wanda goes missing. A team of Avengers goes looking for her. They get in somewhere. They just see something, and then boom. The end of the issue is Logan's woken up in a whole new world where it is different personalities. And yes, like you're talking about, Spider-Man is, oh, excuse me, that's always kind of been hailed as like the biggest one because I reread the issues and like the issues are whack. Like they're super weird. Like he ends up being Green Goblin and like framing himself. Like there's some weird stuff in there, but like his world where it's like Gwen Stacy's not only alive, everyone knows he's Spider-Man and he's like a celebrity for it. And he has kids with Gwen Stacy, and I think the biggest kicker with House of M is not like once they go back, it's not like it's kind of like Inception where they all remember the dream, but the difference is it wasn't a dream, it was a whole life in their mind they live. So it's like imagine right now, in half an hour from now, someone showed up on your doorstep, touched your head, and this whole life you'd been living, it's just no, and someone told you no, none of this is real. Like your other life is maybe shit, this person's dead, your significant other's dead, and it's just like yeah, like that would destroy everyone, you know?
Yeah. No, especially like, I mean, in that moment, like that's just life now. Like it's not like it's like, oh, I'm just gonna go back to my old life. Like,
Yeah, they're
oh,
like, no, we got to
is-
get rid of that
this
old
is
life.
your new reality. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Oh,
that
yeah.
that was. I mean, I didn't expect any of that to happen. So this was all new to me, especially like the bald Spidey that we got. Actually, sorry, I think that's more into his own.
Yeah, more in his own. He just decides to
yeah.
shave his head. But yeah, it's such a great reveal. Like the first issue, I forgot it's not actually Logan. It's Peter waking up in bed. There's a picture of him getting married, but then in the bed it's blonde hair, which is like, and that's where it's the thing. Like I'm fine with Zendaya not having the red hair. I wish she did, but I'm not gonna like get fucking mad about. But that's where the thing is like with Gwen Stacy and Mary Jane, those hairstyles are just so distinctive. So the second you see the blonde hair, you're like, oh my god, that's Gwen Stacy.
Right. Yeah.
And everything's gone awry. So Taylor, what do you think about? Also, we're gonna get more in depth about some of these stuff that happened in the House of M world. What do you think of the initial? You know, they're deciding, should we kill Wanda? Should we not? Pedro goes to his dad and says, hey, we should do something. And then all of a sudden, things have gone upside down for our heroes here.
Yeah, again, it was super fucked, and it was super weird just trying to follow along and see like, okay, what is really going on here? Again, when things started to shift, and
I was just
There
about
you
to show
go.
that too. We're gonna talk about Emma Frost next, because yeah, there's some stuff about her, but yeah.
Sorry, Taylor.
Yeah, when things just started to shift and go awry, I really like the characters waking up because it was again the mental toll was just so batshit crazy. And the one thing I thought was really funny was just when they saw Steve Rogers and they just left him. I mean, I feel like he still would have been able to help them, but yeah, there he is.
How would he have helped? How would Steve Rogers help?
He's
See,
a
I really-
superhuman. He could totally help them out somehow.
He's not in this world. In this world, he's
No,
just a
yeah,
retired
Oh,
vet.
he was.
Ages.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what. Yeah. So, and I kind of liked that because that's near the end. But I liked it as almost like putting someone out of their mercy of like, you know what, just let him enjoy his life. Like he's been through so much. Like, what is it gonna do to go to this old man and break his reality right now? Just let him live the life he's living. So I like it's like kind of like a mercy
Maybe he's
kill in
living
a
with
way.
like Peggy, you know, like maybe.
Yeah, we don't know what's going on. So that's why I like it's like, you know what, leave it. Like what could the 90-year-old man without super soldier serum do? You know, nothing. He's not gonna help out against Magneto. You know.
No, totally.
So yeah, I want to talk. We're going to talk about some of these lifestyle changes right after this ad break. So yeah, let's talk about Emma Frost. So yeah, she like if you want to look up thirst in the dictionary, it'd probably just be a picture of Emma Frost and many things. So she is a character, and I've talked about this with the podcast network people before. Like, I'm very interested how they how they portray her, because I just feel
Me
like
too, Travis.
she's very similar, and I feel like we've seen this already, but she's very similar to Harley Quinn, where Harley Quinn is a very sexualized character, but it's not where. So with me and Captain Marvel, the reason I shout that out is like, I'm not trying to be fucking woke or SJW and be like, oh my god, like, you know, you need to. This is like, oh my god, they're showing women. No, I do think, like, again, what is the purpose of this? Why did Captain Marvel have to be dressed like that as this crime fighter? It's just like, okay, because most of the demographic audience was male back then, and now it's actually, I guess that's video games. I don't know why, but there's a stat that came out that more girls play video games. I feel like soon comic books will be the same, or at least the same, like equal. And so that's why it's, for me, Captain Marvel, it's like, that just looks like full on, you're just sexualizing the character for no reason. Harley Quinn and Emma Frost both use sexuality to their kind of advantage. Harley Quinn uses it as like a seductress. Emma Frost does to a point, but she's just like does this like a fucking power move. Like, she's just like, her outfits all the time are just fucking on fleek. And I think, Taylor, you just shot like Lady Gaga, like 100,000,000% she could be Emma Frost. Like, it's the same way as Poison Ivy. Like, these characters just have a sexuality about them where that brings you in right away, as far as like, oh, I'm attracted to this character, but they do that on purpose because it's like, when they make the move, like when they do something bad, it throws you off. And that's why Emma Frost, if people don't know, she for like decades was a villain of the X-Men. And that's why with this dynamic, I've always liked it, you know, whatever, he's kind of revealed as kind of an asshole now, but while New Avengers was happening, the X-Men run happening at this point was called Astonishing X-Men, and Joss Whedon wrote it. I would highly recommend it. Whatever you think about the guys separate art from the artist, Astonishing X-Men is great. It's all about her heading to school. It's this whole X-Men and their storyline, and it's Jean Grey's dead, everything like that. The artwork is phenomenal. They do new villains and stuff like that. And she has this great push and pull as far as like, no one fucking likes her at the school because like they fought her for years, and all of a sudden she's like the headmaster. But Xavier trusted her because she's like on her
Like
power
Snape
level.
is the headmaster.
It's 100% like
Yeah.
that. Like, she is the Snape. She is that, and that's why I
Yeah.
want so bad for them to do a Disney Plus X-Men TV show of like Hogwarts. They just should do it. Like, there's just so
Oh,
much
yeah.
potential there. But she is exactly like Snape, and this relationship, I've always been a big fan of her and Scott Summers, because her and Scott Summers started having an affair in the mind. They were having their yeah. That's what happened. That's how they got
Spank
away.
bank.
Yeah, that's how they got away with it, is because she could manipulate their mind waves to like they're literally having sex in each other's minds. So that's how it happened.
So would
And
he just
then-
be like chilling all of a sudden? He's like, ugh, just busting nuts.
His blaster goes off everywhere. Scott, but yeah, so so their life is literally just, they're kind of normal people. They're happily married, and I feel like they're happily married in the ways like they don't get, like, Scott is always getting trashed on for being with her, because it's like you're literally like sleeping with the enemy, even though she's
Right.
here. Like, no one trusts her, so they get a nice normal life. Wonder Man, who you guys haven't seen much of, but he probably will come in the MCU. There's been some hints of him in WandaVision. He becomes like a big time movie actor. Captain Marvel, she's just like, I actually wanted to go read her stuff because I forgot about some of the stories they talked about. They show like Kitty Pryde's a teacher. They show Luke Cage is a criminal. He's like a mastermind like Kingpin. Doctor
Yeah.
Strange is just a therapist now, you know, stuff like that. And then we get into Wolverine, who is literally, he calls himself, he's like, I'm Nick Fury, and he doesn't remember. And like, I love this panel of how he remembers. No one else remembers, but he remembers his life. And then, let me pull it up here, right there. And it's him having all the Weapon X flashbacks, and then he wakes up, Jean's there. And at the time, like I said, this was a big thing because Jean Grey was dead in the real continuity. She was not around. So it looked like he was getting his life, but then we get that moment, Mystique being like, what's the problem? You liked redheads last night or something like that. And his, like, dream, and what we didn't talk about, how it's similar to WandaVision, where people put the theory as far as the last episode of WandaVision, you saw the guy with the piano lessons, and now he can do piano. You saw the lady from the 70s show, obviously her husband has died, so it's like gave her husband. Again, these are against free will. This is not what people want, but it's like she in her mind gave everybody a happy life, and that's in House of M to try and make them go away is like she gave everyone what they wanted, and Nick and Wolverine said like, I guess I wanted to be Nick Fury because he's like the head of this mutant organization. He has a team, and I guess that's the other thing we didn't talk about, that it's the reverse where mutants are the normal people. It's like Planet of the
Yeah.
Apes. Mutants
Yeah.
are the normal people, and normies are looked at as like bad, and they got the racial stuff. Like even Scott Lang, they're like, or Hank Pym, they're like, there's not much room for a human doctor. Like you got to be careful with what you do because they'll cut you because they don't really want you on the team. And he's like, well, I have
Yeah.
all these ideas. Like, well, it doesn't really matter. You're human, and we want to get rid of you. So there's lots of changes there.
Yeah, I loved like seeing that because it's a different take on what we've already seen before.
Yeah.
And again, it's like you mentioned, Wonder Man. I've never really seen him before, and like seeing him on here, I had like the Marvel wiki or whatever up, like just looking into some of these
Mhm.
characters. So it was just interesting seeing them in these different, um, just I don't know, lifestyles. And like you
Vi-
mentioned, Kitty Pryde is the teacher. Sorry.
Yeah, Vision's brainwaves are based off of Wonder Man. So that's why at one point after
Okay.
Vision like becomes White Vision, the comics, he goes off on his own. Scarlet kind of falls for Wonder Man because he has similar like personality as Vision because
Okay.
his brainwaves were based on him. So
And sorry, just touching upon Wolverine here. Was there
yeah.
a reason why like he was just getting these old memories back? Was it just because his like regeneration powers, or is it just because this actually happened in the new reality? Or
I don't know. I feel like it's the obvious answer as well. They love Wolverine. They want him to be the main character. But like as far
Yeah.
as in canon, yeah, I'd feel like his brain almost like snapped back and was like, no, this
'Cause
isn't
it's
like it.
kind of healing from like the powers of the Scarlet Witch. That's where
Yeah,
my head canon kind of went.
yeah, and I kind of agree with that. Or he
Yeah.
was just the lucky one who didn't get to live that life.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely he's.
Yeah, and again, I love just getting those flashbacks of his origin story, and like I've seen them from what I saw in like the Hugh Jackman Wolverine stuff, but it was
Yeah.
just cool to see it in the graphic novel stuff. Again, it makes me just want to look up these comics and read more into them. Yeah, actually, sorry, jumping back, something I forgot to mention, that like that city that they're in
Mhm.
with Charles and Magneto. What is that again? It's just like the capital of like the mutant land.
Well, yeah, that was Geonosis. Yeah, yeah,
Gnosis.
yeah. That's like there, exactly like you said. And then there's also, we don't get to it there, but there's like the Savage Land as well, which is like an island that's like for mutants and stuff like that. But yeah, it's supposed to be like a safe haven for mutants. We saw like a shitty version of it in Dark Phoenix where it was just like a plot of land that Magneto owned. It was like, okay,
Fuck, yeah.
yeah.
Oh my god, I forgot about
That's what
that.
Geonosis is in Dark Phoenix, is that little thing.
Like
I
a
don't actually
trailer
know.
park in that movie.
Yeah,
Fuck.
I don't actually know if they say it, but that's what it's supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought that city was really really cool, and again, like I already mentioned, it just makes you want to read more into the comics of like talking about that sort of stuff, because in this they're just kind of there, and then as the reader, I'm just kind of accepting that this is a thing. It's like, okay, well, I want to know more about this, but obviously I probably won't get that in this series. But just touching back on Wolverine, I loved how like that reveal turned to Mystique. I really like the
Mhm.
relationship there. I what was like
Poor Mystique.
what
She's just living a life here. Her husband's just like going off. Like he just like there's this moment where he's like, I love like you're talking about the flashbacks, but even showing like his first appearance like fighting the Hulk. That's so cool. And like it's from
oh, so
like
cool.
POV of like his claws and like the
Totally,
hands.
yeah.
But like literally he's just talking to Mystique and he just decides at one point just like to jump out of the fucking helicarrier and just leave her mid conversation.
And then
You know?
especially I don't know if you can see her, but like the lady from Japan.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's the same lady from the Wolverine movie, right?
Yeah, that's the one that he has a child with as well, Dakin.
Dakin, that's a dope name.
Dakin, yeah, his
Um,
bisexual son who's tattooed the fuck up.
right on.
Yeah.
Um oh yeah. Yeah, just touching upon Mystique. Imagine if like you're married to this guy and like you're so open to like changing into whoever he wants because he's got some crazy sexual preferences. He doesn't want to look at you even though that's your husband, and then still he's like, get the fuck away from me. It's like, oh, poor Mystique. Always the
Oh.
silver medal.
And there's another line. This is before, because you're talking about we'll get there when Spider-Man's like saying he's gonna kill her. But when they're having that meeting before House of M, I forgot to shout this out. Wolverine, like he's so stern about it, and Spider-Man goes, "Well, you know what? If my powers just wig out, are you all just gonna come kill me?" And Wolverine goes, "Yeah, and I hold you to do the same for me." So it's just so like he's just so blunt about it, just like, "Yeah, I'll kill you, Spider-Man, if you ever get crazy, but I want you to kill me as well." So it's just like, well, fair enough, like he dishes out. But Taylor, also we talked about a lot of the different worlds and personalities, like the mutants running thing, people having obviously different lives. Did you have any favorites or anything in particular? Hawkeye's still alive in this universe, as I'm just flipping through again.
Sorry,
So,
what was this unit called that they had?
oh,
It
I
was
can't
like the
remember, but it was
Reds.
like it was like they have like those like very like Nazi Germany like Magneto like X's going around and stuff like that. But yeah, they're almost like an X Force or like their version of a Shield or something like that Wolverine
Yeah.
was running. But yeah, like these flags for like Magnus, there's just a bunch of M's around. Yeah, very very and like that's kind of like also we get the reveal of what's going on, but it's almost like this is a guy that came from concentration camps and like Nazi Germany and everything, and he's doing that now.
No, yeah, like the parallels. This poor guy that Wolverine just like broke into his house.
Oh, I know.
Please leave my home.
And like I love the art through all this, but like I love the covers of House of M. That style, like
Yeah.
it's almost just like pencil crayon. Like I know it's more than that, but it's just like and there's that it's the very final one too. I love where it's like Magneto like on his knees and like Wolverine's about to stab him. Oh, they just look so good, these covers. But Taylor, yeah, what were your thoughts on the House of M world when we got into it? Did you have any favorite scenarios that were kind of new or fresh?
Um, I mean, yeah, I quite enjoyed it. Again, it was just very fun to kind of understand the different storylines that these heroes are all dream sequencing for themselves, I guess you could say. It was super cool to just kind of follow along and see what was going on. I'm trying to remember how Wolverine really came into contact with this little girl, because the little girl was a mutant who had the ability to like revert, right, or break or crack WandaVision's power or Wanda's
Yeah.
power. So where does she come from, like in the comics? Is she like a very high note character, or is she relatively minor?
I think she's minor, and they just kind of used her for this because I don't even know if she has that power later on. But they meet her. He meets her when it's like this underground thing when they pull him into there because he's a tracker, and they think, because the humans think that he's gonna be like because he's like the Nick Fury, so they want to take him out. But he's all like, "I'm gonna work with you." Blah blah blah. Hawkeye's pretty violent. He shot like a
Well,
bunch of arrows in him.
they acted like they didn't know he was gonna regenerate health for some reason. That's the gist that I got. Because Hawkeye and Luke Cage seemed kind of surprised when he got back up, or he woke back up or whatever.
Well,
Yeah, well, maybe they
maybe they
haven't.
just haven't seen him in this
Yeah,
Mm.
in
they haven't
this
had to
new
fight him or
world.
anything like that. But yeah, I
Yeah.
love that Clint literally shoots the tracker out of his neck, like with an arrow. And Luke is like, "Yeah, you're gonna kill him," but no, I obviously precise aim there. But yeah, Hawkeye's he's pretty angry in this, and it's just like because it's funny, like when Wolverine's filling in everybody on what happens to them and everything like that. And he's just like, well, why don't I remember that life? And he's like, well, because you die. And that is curious. Of like, well, yeah, I guess you couldn't have that almost switch because you don't have anything. You would just switch to just darkness and cold, like whatever
Yeah.
death's gonna be. Like you can't revert. So
Well,
it's
that's
just
that's like the equivalent to a Vision, right? And
yeah,
WandaVision right now with his memory.
yeah, no, very much so.
No, definitely.
And then we got the big Sentinels too that are all like for
Mhm.
us now, like for the mutants and everything like that.
No, yeah, totally. I love Luke Cage's look with the cornrows and everything. He just looks so badass in
Mhm.
this. I really liked just the criminal syndicate he had running there, and then I think I forget who said it, but it's like, why should we basically believe what Wolverine, or like maybe it was Wolverine that said it. It's like, why are you even trusting me here? Like, and then it's like because like she had the exact same
Story,
story.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And again, introduced that character. I forget her name even. What was her name?
Trying to find it. I always forgot it too. And Clint, what was I dead? And Clint Barton, the witch killed you months ago. Go to hell. More than I already am. Yeah, he's got some good stuff there. I'm trying to find her name because I actually haven't find her in the pan. Layla was her name.
There you go.
And he goes, like the song? And she goes, no. Just fun little stuff. But yeah, I'll have to look it up because I don't think she's been in much more that I've seen. But let me do a quick little.
It's so issue 4, or sorry, issue 3 of House of M. that's kind of just like following Wolverine, Logan, and like
Yeah.
just trying to figure out what's been going on. I just love following a Wolverine. I really got to read more of his stuff. It's just so fun to just
Oh, we will. Yeah.
because again, it just reminds me of the Hugh Jackman stuff. You know, when he's the protagonist and we're following him, like just from his point of view. And like I mentioned already, he broke into the mansion, been like, what the fuck is going on? He's like, I've lived here for 15 years. Please leave my family home. And then, like just following him when he gets back on the classic bike, classic Logan on his motorcycle there. I
Oh, yeah.
really like that issue. Just following him. Great
So,
character.
so yeah, she's not been in too much, but she's still been around. Layla Miller is her name. Her first appearance was this House of M, and then later on they followed up with her on X Factor Investigations. When reality restored, Layla woke up and found herself back in an orphanage she hated, only without her former mutant powers. Shortly therefore after, an adult Layla returned to the future to speak with her younger self and uploaded all the knowledge from her lifetime in the information for the next 80 years into the mind of her younger self. Armed with a pseudo-precognition knowledge, Layla showed up at the office of X Factor Investigations Mutant Town, offering to help, claiming to see she knows stuff. Without invitation or permission, Layla began working as a file clerk and using her knack for predicting the future to give X Factor advice and steer them in right directions. So that what an origin that your older self had powers, so it went back in the past to give your younger self the powers, so you knew everything, or just like what the future kind of was. So yeah, so she was used. She's been around for a little bit. I'm trying to find out when her like most recent debut was, but when you look at her like wiki or like her Marvel wiki, I'm trying to think the last time. It's not like a big one, so I don't think it was that far. She's been around, but nothing too big.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out when her last. I don't think, and she's never appeared in anything, video games or anything like that, animated shows. So one day, maybe Feige's reading it. He loves Layla Miller, you know.
I wouldn't bet on it.
She's the leader of the Avengers, but
She seemed
yeah,
like the type of character that was just kind of in here to help progress the plot, and then
yeah.
yeah,
And it's cool that she's pops up again later on in some stuff. So good for her. She gets some shine, and then you get Emma Frost comes home to
Oh.
Scott. Yeah, yeah.
Ayo.
There's that image of them getting it on, but like again, same thing. You're getting the whole origin of her in the Hellfire Club, everything like that,
Yeah.
and then you're getting some creepy images of Charles. But then the next issue is just about issue 5 is just all about the heroes learning their identities, breaking down stuff like that. Obviously, they poor Peter, just a night out, day out with his family. They ambush him and everything like that. And then just this panel of just like Peter seeing all these villains again in his life, like Venom, Kingpin, Goblin. Just like, man, that sucks. But yeah, this one was like just a pretty much big setup of all of them getting, here I am. It showed that Xavier's dead, so the whole kind of 5 issues they were looking for him, he's no help there. So they kind of realize they have to do it on their own, and they have to get to Wanda. And they've pretty much just decided now we have to kill her, and that's what's going to happen. Like, that's how we can stop all this. They're going to go crash. Magneto's having some, like, their version of a UN. So, like, T'Challa is like a big king there. Namor's a king. Doctor Doom's a king, and they're like all working it out together and everything like that. And this is where they create the plan. And then a bunch of stuff happens, like lots of fights, everything. Great panels, action, everything like that. And then in issue 7 or around there is when we start to get the reveal of we
The
get
little-
Steven, which
Sorry, I
is
was just
oh
gonna-
yeah,
that
beautiful.
memorial.
That one's
Oh,
so
such
good.
a beautiful shot.
And then we get Stephen Strange to sign, okay, well, I'm going to go talk to Wanda one last time. And he's like meeting the kids. And that's a great moment. I love when he's with the kids and he's talking to them and the kids like don't like Strange. They're telling him to go away and everything like that. And then you kind of get the big reveal that it wasn't Magneto that went and told and put these ideas in Scarlet Witch's head to do this. It was actually Pietro, which was kind of, I really like because I love in the finale of Avengers, Pietro shows up and he's very solemn and he's very like apologetic for what has happened to his sister. So it's a good red herring of like when you meet him with the Avengers, he seems very like, oh, like I hate this happened. I'm sorry my sister did this. And you would think Magneto with his past and even everything. It's like Magneto flags, these Magnus robots. Like, okay, he did do this, but no, it was Pietro along that kind of put those ideas in her head to because he just wanted to save his sister to maybe change some things up, but it just completely reworked the entire reality.
That was a good plot twist for sure. Just I gotta highlight this, dude. I love this cloak. I can't wait to see Doom on live action.
Oh, I know, man.
Oh, and also like King of Latveria. Like? Do I just have to look into this character to find out more, or
Isn't
was that?
that Doom? Isn't he the
Yeah,
king of
that's
Latveria?
yeah. He's the king. Yeah.
Yeah, what does that mean? I've.
Oh, Latveria is his country. It's like Sokovia, a fake country. It doesn't
Oh,
exist.
okay.
Like it is in the Marvel universe, but he is
Yeah.
like he. It's like
I
British, I think, kind of hierarchy where he is the king of
I,
Latveria. So
I was gonna
we'll
say
get there.
my extent of knowledge is the Jessica Alba movie of Doctor Doom.
Oh,
So I mean I'm excited to just read more about his comics and stuff because from what I've heard from you, he's obviously a much bigger character than what I saw in those live action
oh
films.
yeah,
So
top tier.
yeah, I just
And
love
yeah,
that shot though with the cloak and just like the dark face. It's just such a cool shot.
yeah, and if you haven't read it, there's when they're doing the whole like Pietro reveal, I really love. There's like the whole conversation of Pietro and Wanda, and he's literally just saying like it's simple like human stuff, but he's just like they're gonna kill you, and like one day I'm gonna wake up and I'm not gonna have a sister anymore and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
No,
And it's
that
just like
that that
really
hit
good.
home definitely. I mean, I have a
Yeah,
sister myself, so I could
yeah,
definitely see from his point of view there. That was, I mean, obviously it it sucks that he ruined everyone's lives doing this, but I don't know, just humanizes his thought process in that situation.
and then even Magneto pops off because once Magneto finds what happened, he was not too
Oh,
happy,
he
and
was
he just sends
pissed.
like a storm wave towards Quicksilver, and again, that's why I we'll see. Obviously, people listening to this know what's already happened with Quicksilver, but even then with Scarlet Witch, it is one of those things where it's just like I'm always gonna be a little bummed because it's not their fault. They didn't have the X-Men and everything like that, and they went a different route. And it could be weird to retcon Magneto and Scarlet Witch's father and daughter, but it is just that's always something that I feel like we're gonna miss, and that's what I was always saying and championing with the Fox X-Men movies of like, oh, I can't wait for them to do the Quicksilver Magneto relationship, and they never really pulled that trigger. They just
Yeah.
hinted at it, and I just feel like even if you do one half of it, it's just such a dynamic because like you're always gonna have that dynamic of if your father's a super terrorist, what's that gonna be like? And he's not a super terrorist in a way of like just black and white. It's like you could agree with some of the things, and it's just like I don't know if we will ever get that in the MCU. I'm saying I don't think so. No, I just think the timing didn't unfortunately work out. But I would love to see some sort of version like that. Even if, like I've said, I've pitched before, where if you were to meet Scarlet Witch and he becomes a father figure, even if they're not like biologically related, like even if they were to do that, I just love the trio dynamic of those three together in these comic books.
No, I 100% agree with you. That's
Very Game of Thrones like.
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
No, definitely. That's like been the biggest thing I've been upset with is like those Fox X-Men movies. It's like it's such a wasted potential there that they
Mhm.
never touched upon that. Obviously, we got that moment. Was it at the end of Apocalypse
Yeah, he's like, I'm
when
not
Pip,
gonna tell him.
like, and then we don't even talk about it in the next film. It's just like, oh my god, that frustrated me because again, obviously, we're not going back to that world. I mean, it's a low percentage, but I feel like
Yeah,
maybe we'll get some Fox stuff in there, but
not in
um
a big way.
no, definitely not. So I feel like the biggest chance we have of doing something like that is possibly, with a Wanda type thing, but I don't know if we'll get like the full trio though. I don't know.
Well, if
I don't
Quicksilver,
think so.
if he's not Quicksilver, we definitely won't because the real Quicksilver is dead. So if like they don't
Right.
retcon Evan
Yes.
Peters to that, so it's just like yeah, it's
This
not looking good.
this little shot here with Hawkeye just like absolutely getting crisped. Oh, that was brutal.
Today,
It
what
just
about you?
happened so fast.
What do you think about the? Because yeah, we're talking about the twist of Pietro being the actual one who kind of put the ideas in Scarlet Witch's head. And then what do you think about the trio of like the father with the twins? Is that something that you're gonna be a little like? Because I know you're not the biggest X-Men fan, but I feel like we were talking about how that's kind of Game of Thrones like. So I feel like that would appeal to you as far as like this hierarchy and whatnot. And do you think we could see any type of version of that in the MCU? Because obviously Pietro's dead. Scarlet Witch, as of right now, is not related to Magneto. She's related to this family in Sokovia. So, like, how do you feel about Pietro twist and then kind of the Magneto dynamic with them?
Um, the Pietro twist I really really liked. I did not see that coming or whatever.
You didn't see that coming?
So I think it worked out great because this whole time I was thinking Magneto, even though they were putting those thoughts in my head the way
Oh
the
yeah.
story was going. So I like Pietro being the bad guy. without intentionally kind of being the bad guy in this storyline, and even playing Magneto and such was just great because his ending with Wolverine there was just fucking insane.
Yeah.
But it remind me now when you say this arc with the father and the kids. You mean like the scenario where Doctor Strange like is like a spirit form and is confronting Wanda, and Wanda's got the kids and such, and
Well, that or just like I was just talking about Magneto with like his like if we could ever see something like that in the MCU, which I don't think we would, but like and even then, yeah, you can talk about the Strange and Kids thing because I like all that stuff when he's talking to the twins and and like Wanda's in this weird. I feel like Wanda in that issue is in this weird state where she kind of knows the jig is up and it's not going to last, but it seems like she's just enjoying the time she has with the kids and everything like that. Like she's not like the first time Strange goes to talk to her, she's fighting it, she's throwing all this stuff. Like they go dukes out. This time, not really. She's just kind of sitting there like, okay, like do what you're going to, but I'm gonna be here as long as I can, and because like the main fight at the end is with Pietro and Magneto, and then they just kind of snap out of it. She didn't fight too hard to out of it, you know.
yeah, no, it didn't feel like she was resisting. She just felt like what she did was justified because she gave everyone what they wanted, and I mean that's fine in the sense of her with the kids and obviously like them having like Magneto and this whole storyline in the MCU. I don't feel like it's out of the question. I really don't. Like however they want to paint Magneto and Scarlet Witch and Pietro's relationship, I don't know how Feige's going to do it, but I really really do see I mean, Magneto, it's a given. He's going to be in the MCU. I mean, he is a head honcho, but I do think he's going to be in sooner than later, especially obviously because I like how they call him like Pietro, fake Pietro. I definitely do like. Again, they brought Quicksilver in, so they're gonna bring in these characters. They're going to. Sorry, my door opened up behind me. It just throws me off.
I figured.
No, I do think that it's doable. You know, you bring in Magneto into the MCU again when they killed off.
Real Pietro?
Xavier. Like I was not expecting that. I was trying to figure out like, hey, where is he hiding? Like,
he's hiding real good.
There's only so many places like this guy in this most powerful psychic mutant in a wheelchair could be hiding at, and he was underground. And again, that whole moment there, because who found him again? It wasn't Wolverine, was it?
No, it's just no one really finds him. It's just Magneto finds him, and then I think Emma reads someone's mind and kind of spreads that to everybody.
She goes Cerebro, right? And then that's where she's like, I don't see him anywhere. I guess he's gone.
I thought she went there to Cerebro to see if there were any mutants left when Wanda like.
Yeah, I think she goes to see. She goes to see. Jesus.
You can tell it's almost WandaVision time.
Cerebro after. Yeah, I feel like she just somehow senses he's gone because that's the whole motivation. They're trying to find him. And then they never do. So I can't remember that specific step. But yeah, what we're talking about the other one is so when they do snap out, everything goes back to normal. I love that shot of when Peter's getting out of bed and MJ's just giving him sass, but he's having none of it because it's just like, oh, poor MJ, you have no idea what's going on through this guy's brain right now because he's just lived a whole nother life with a different woman, like, and his first love too. So that's great. We talked about earlier, like, you know, the should we kill or whatnot. Wanda is just off. She's just living her hopefully best life. She's just caped. She's gone somewhere. Yeah. So it's like, oh, what's she up to?
Riding Hood.
Yeah, but then there's kind of a fallout because obviously the biggest thing of this comic book, as I'd say the most iconic line of it, is the No More Mutants line because that changed a lot of things in the comic books. And people were wondering, and hey, maybe we're living that world. I don't think so. But people were wondering, would we get an equivalent of that line in WandaVision, but like saying more mutants or something like that, the reverse. But this had the effects of, obviously, we see that many mutants lose all their powers and everything like that. And obviously, quite a big deal. But yeah, that was a very controversial moment, not in a bad way of like, oh, people, it was just like one of those like, okay, they went there, and it did have ramifications for quite a while because this was 2004. So eventually you get to Civil War, and eventually the universe starts to reboot. And that's why lots of people thought Mephisto would be in this because, you know, at one point in Civil War, Spider-Man reveals his identity and he wants to take that away with Mephisto, and he kind of messes up some storylines. So that's why you can kind of see why some people have pulled from these particular arcs with WandaVision because there's lots of similarities. Like Civil War has happened already, but yeah, what do you guys think about the No More Mutants part? Because obviously it's a classic comic thing, but for you guys, it's just reading for the first time.
Yeah. I I I I don't know how I felt because
Mm-hmm.
like again, like in my own like thought process of where we are regarding mutants or anything like this, or just reading House of M, it's hard for me to think of this as just like the one true storyline. It's just like, oh, I
Yeah.
just feel like this is kind of just a one-off thing, and then like obviously we'll get mutants again, but um like the big thing for me was I think when Emma Frost like went to Cerebro, it's like, oh my gosh, like there's actually like no mutants anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Except for our
it's
main X-Men, we're all okay. Yeah,
plot
it's kind of
armor,
like
right?
it's kind of like in like the blip. It's like you're telling me every single Spider-Man main character got blipped, like Mary Jane, Aunt May, Ned. Okay, I guess so. Fine, you know.
No, exactly. You brought up an interesting point though on like if they do want to pull up something like that in WandaVision, the show,
Mm-hmm.
especially it would answer why we haven't gotten mutants, in the MCU before. That'd be an interesting route if they want to go that way. I don't know. I
I
feel
don't
like
think they did.
I feel like
Obviously,
30% confidence in that though. Yeah.
yeah, because it's just such a big thing. I always still think that they will introduce them in the movies. There might be little like crumbs to like, oh, it was in this show, but I feel like the first time you hear the word mutants or like see a mutant, probably be in a movie. I think, in my opinion, but
Yeah.
you never know if they want to make these shows big. They could do that at some point. So,
No, for sure. Yeah, I agree.
Taylor, any thoughts on the No More Mutants reveal? And we get back to life, and there's some missing mutants. You must have loved that because you hate the X-Men, so you're like, yeah, get rid of them.
I will.
You're like Peter Dinklage in Days of Future Past.
The thing when it comes to the X-Men, and I think it's my takeaway for it, is just there's so many of them that for me it just kind of, I feel like it kind of not I don't want to say dilutes the fact that heroes, but I like in these movies when it would just be like one whole movie like one hero or like smaller heroes, and just like the MCU did that so well, I found, where it was just there's not a massive amount, but each one is so unique. And I guess you could say the same thing for the mutants, but it just feels like there's so many of them, so
Mhm.
it just kind of diluted the superhero kind of vibe for me with them. That being said, I'm excited to see the MCU do a different take with it. Now, when we get to this, and then basically axing all of the mutants' powers and stuff, I don't like it because I hate X-Men. I like it because that's just a mind fuck on the scale of, yeah, you've lived this whole life, and then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're living this whole other life with your dead former lover, and then you get that taken away and you realize you lived this whole previous life because someone was in your head. That's again like for X-Men, you've lived your whole life with these powers, and it's literally something you just, I can't even like imagine that, because it's an extension of yourself. It's a part of who you are, and then all of a sudden it's gone, and you're normal. You're, what they call Homo sapien, and you just
Yeah, it's
like
like if you couldn't
that's,
play Call of Duty anymore, Taylor. Like you just
yeah,
lost that
like that
skill.
would be absolutely like, yeah, I'd have a nervous breakdown. So
Well, is there anything else we want to shout? We made it to the end here. Fun discussion. We weren't sure what we're gonna like. We knew what we were talking about. We weren't sure because we've never reviewed a comic book, but it was good. Next time, because we were supposed to record this 2 weeks ago. Next time, we'll definitely try to make sure we record like right after. But one time we had like a
Right.
scheduling thing, and
Yeah.
then the one time we got bumped into WandaVision. But yeah, any last thoughts on House of M? Was it a good first outing for you guys?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Mm.
I mean, it went hand in hand with WandaVision. I already have that type of lore, if you want
Yeah.
to call it that, in my mind. So I thought it went really well and really fun starting point. I felt like there is like it wasn't too daunting of a series to jump into. It's not like it was like 37 different. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess if you go into those tie-ins, I was just looking. It looks like there is a Captain America one with old Steve Rogers. That's hilarious.
Oh
I have
yeah.
to check that one out.
Oh,
Um,
the big events would always have the like Civil War had so many crossovers and
oh
times
yeah.
and stuff like that. They always do, and like they're good for like a one time read, but they are sometimes they're not the greatest. They're just like at the time to sell more comic books, but they can still be interesting. Like the Spider-Man one, I find interesting. So
Yeah, I like that. I loved how Rhino was like his like doorman.
yeah, yeah,
That's hilarious.
and I love the red
Um,
herring the whole time setting up Norman's gonna be the Goblin, and he's not, which
no, yeah, totally. But yeah, no, I'm really happy that we did this one. It was very trippy, definitely very trippy with the reality bending stuff, and I feel like it kind of reinforced my understanding of just how powerful the character of Scarlet Witch is, and yeah, I'm really glad that we did it.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor, how was this cherry popping experience for you?
The cherry has been successfully popped, and
This
it
cherry's baked.
yeah. Um, I really enjoyed it. I loved all of the just the unexpected deaths, all the stuff we wouldn't get in the actual MCU. I feel like, and just the mental breakdowns with everything that they did. It was just something that I was not used to seeing these superheroes go through, and it was super super cool to experience and to observe. So on top of that, getting all this like filler information to kind of help make more sense of the WandaVision series right now, I really appreciated that. It made me clear up some things and kind of just it's like, oh, it's cool. The show's pulling from this part of House of M, I feel like, and all these different things, which I really really liked.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. Ghost Rider wasn't in that superhero lineup with all 10,000 heroes, was he?
He
Oh,
can't be trusted, you
oh
know.
damn. Oh, well, that's another thing that I'm reading of those. I need to get more into those Cosmic Ghost Riders because that first like arc was so good with Baby Thanos. Holy shit!
Yeah, no, yeah, they're on the library, Kirkland. If you want to read them, it's Ghost Rider. Well, he has the powers. He has the powers of.
It's Frank
it's Frank
Castle.
Castle
Yeah.
with the powers of Ghost Rider and powers of Galactus as well, all put together. So that's why it's Cosmic Ghost Rider.
Jesus
And his
Christ.
life's gone really bad. His life's gone really bad because of Thanos. So he decides to travel back in time and kill baby Thanos, and then a whole ride of really crazy shit happens. And
Powers of Ghost Rider and Galactus. Like,
yes,
who is he fighting? Like the gods
well,
themselves?
because at one point he was Thanos found a way. He was Thanos' bodyguard. Thanos like took over his mind, like mind warped it. So he was
Oh.
just like Thanos' hand, and he would do everything. So he got the cosmic power somehow from Galactus. And I think because I just reread it for Marvel Alliance, I think it's only like 6 issues too, or
It
something
is
like that.
6
So
issues. Yeah.
it's a quick, easy read. It's tons of fun, and that's kind of my theory of how I think they'll do Punisher in the MCU, because the Punisher's kind of like a risque character nowadays with like people wearing the logo and stuff. So I feel like how do you make that character like kind of fun, and how do you make him the Punisher but not the Punisher? Is like, well, give him Ghost
Right.
Rider's powers,
Mhm.
So
That's wild. You intrigued me. I definitely gonna be checking it out.
oh, it's wild, it's crazy. He's just a cool looking character too. So. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we did it. We hope you enjoyed this episode. This was the first one. Let us know if you read along. Let us know what you thought. If you've read it before, let us know what you thought. And let us know, because we haven't decided the game plan. We think in the future, like we said, we're going to time with the releases. But with Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think there might not be time for it. Well, there might be, I don't know. But who knows? I just know for sure that we're going to have to look at the schedule, see what we're talking about. Well, same with like Loki, I'd have to look and be like, okay, what's the best for Loki? I know for What If, I want us to read like a bunch of What Ifs. I want us to like everybody pick 5, because they're literally just one single issues, and I say everyone just picks 5, and then we like read them, because there's some really fun trippy stuff, and it'd be a good time. And so we could do that. We're definitely doing some Ghost Rider. So I think what we may do before we do another one that ties in with like a current movie coming out, like it'll what honestly what I'm saying is, once they shit or get off the pot with these movies, we'll know. Like I think like when Eternals comes out, I'd love to read some Eternals. So I've never read Eternals, so that's the thing where it's like that'd be a good thing of time. But until then, it's like while we're in this limbo, I think we'll do a couple like I'll look in like what's the best Ghost Rider one. We'll get some Spy in there. We'll do some characters we love till we start doing some ones tying in with the movies. Like I've never read Shang-Chi. Now's the perfect time to do it, because we have a movie coming out. I'd like to know a little bit of his backstory before we go into it. So,
Are there?
we're
Are there any Revengers comics?
Revengers. No, I don't think so.
Oh.
No, none of the Revengers. But yeah, let us know. Maybe one time in the future too, we'll do a fans vote, and you guys can vote, and you guys can pick. But yeah, this was lots of fun. And when we hear from you next, it'll not be boring.
Bye bye.
Farewell.